What is your name?
Celia.
And where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Michigan, raised here in Chicago. I was incarcerated in Dwight Correctional Center, started off there, but I also was in Dixon and in Logan Correctional Centers. I was incarcerated from 1994 to the year 2000. I was released in May 26 of 2000. In the total 6.5 years, I did probably about 2.5 years in SEG. Throughout the whole 6.5 years, I spent about a year, was my longest stint, and that was in Logan. And then I did a few months in Dwight and a few months in Dixon in SEG. When you're in segregation, you're away from everybody and you're alone. You are completely alone to your own thoughts, and that's just basically it. Versus being in population where you have some form of life, you are around other people where you can social life and have a ritual. You either go to school or you have a job where they have you cleaning, or you're actually with other people, your roommates, you're able to go to the cafeteria for lunch, you're able to go to the yard, so you have some kind of social interaction with other humans. In the whole, you're just by yourself, you're locked up 24 hours a day, 23 hours a day. They're supposed to let you out an hour a day in the, what they call the rec, where it's also, you're chained up, but it's fenced in. You're supposed to get out 1 hour a day. Sometimes they don't allow you to. You're only allowed to take a shower twice a week. Sometimes that doesn't happen either. So you take a bird bath using your sink, and you just take a bath inside of, the hole, versus where if you're in your room as an inmate, you're there, you usually have 1 to 2 roommates, or sometimes 3, 4, depending on what the cell is or how many people are in there. So you have friends, as you would call them, or acquaintances, and you have a social life of some sort. You get mail, you're able to watch television, you're able to act human. Versus being in SEG, you're like an animal. Inside, I felt like I was gonna die at times. I was lonely, I was scared. I felt like I was gonna lose my mind, because sometimes they would give us reading materials, sometimes they wouldn't. I would be hungry, I'd be alone, I'd be wanting to just hurt myself. It was torture. I was abused, I was sexually assaulted, harassed by officers, females and males. Being a woman, it's very hard being incarcerated. You don't have anybody to help you, because when the men come in and do their count, or the females, you're alone sometimes in SEG. There's not a lot of women that go to SEG. So therefore, sometimes it could just be you, and nobody else is back there to hear your cries.
And what were some of the effects that you had? Or did those effects go with you when you went back to general population in terms of mental effects? Or?
Well, not really. Well, the mental effects, kind of, because then I would think about the next person that got in my face. Was I ready to fight them and go back to the hole and put myself back into a very horrible situation again? Like, was it worth it? I would think twice before I committed the next act. So it prevented me and would stop me from doing some of the things that I probably wouldn't have thought twice about before. So when I spent very little time, because I got into a lot of fights when I first got incarcerated, and at first it was no big deal. I made a name for myself. I would fight anybody at the drop of a hat. If they even looked at me the wrong way. I was little, and I felt like I needed to be tough, because if not, people were gonna mess with me. And so I'd fight anybody at the drop of a hat. And after I fought a few people, nobody would mess with me. So I didn't care about going to SEG, It was no big deal, it was fun. Especially in Dixon and in Logan, because in them places, it was co-ed facilities, and you were in SEG with men. So the cells were, a lot of people would go to SEG so they could see the men that were there. They weren't like right across from each other, but they were kind of kitty corner. So even though you couldn't really see them, you could hear them, and we would scream across to each other. It'd be a way to socialize with somebody of the opposite sex.
Upon your immediate release, obviously not now, but what were some of the issues that you were dealing with on immediate release that you can tie directly to being in segregation? If any.
If any, I would say the feelings of not being in touch with my feelings, you know, not really having it, feeling kind of numb to the world in my heart, because you lose a part of yourself. You lose who you are. You lose like your sanity. It's torture. Because I've seen people, and well, not with my eyes, but I've heard, because they were in the room next to me or the room across from me, commit suicide. I've seen people pulled out of the rooms who were friends of mine, or as you can say, acquaintances, who've tried to commit suicide from being in SEG. So I think it's something that it's important that this bill should be passed, because it's torture, it's cruel, it's inhumane to do that to somebody.